Welcome back, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me today on this video. I am so excited to present to you this video for today. It is long overdue. It's something that was at the forefront of all my YouTube videos, just creating them and just putting them out into the world. But this one in particular is very near and dear to me. And I'm excited for you to see what's in this video. But first, I wanted to give a big shout out to everybody who is struggling, everybody who is going through rough parts of their life. I also want to shout out to people who are unemployed right now and that are just really going through it. I would like to remind you all that the struggle is real and the struggle is temporary. A lot of things in our life are temporary. Good times are temporary, bad times are temporary, and we will get through this together. I have faith that we will. I wanted to give a shout out to those who are unemployed in this economy and job market. It is rough out there. And I'm not saying like just people who don't have an education. I know a lot of people who have educations and degrees and just all these skill sets in the back of their, in their pockets, and they're still struggling to find employment. I am also unemployed, and I have been struggling for a couple of months finding stable full-time employment. But I am still keeping faith, although I am hanging by a thread. Make no mistake, tough times exist, but I'm tougher. Anyways, so yeah, shout out to everybody who is unemployed right now and just going through financial struggles, mental struggles, physical struggles, transitional struggles. The struggle is real. And we're all in it together. We're all going to get through it together. And life will go on. We'll be okay. We'll be okay. Your value doesn't equate to your employment status. For a while, I was like, damn, I don't mean shit in this world because I don't have a job. I contribute nothing to society. Wrong. I still have value in society. I still am capable of love. I'm capable of respect, and so are you. This is just a temporary transitional time in our lives, and we will get through it. On that note, I just wanted to say you're worthy of love and respect. Your existence in this capitalist complex world ran by corrupt billionaires is valid. You deserve respect if you are putting in work to becoming a better you and chasing your dreams. You deserve respect and love and compassion if you are putting in the work to become a better you and chase your dreams. Okay, we only live this life once, and we only have one shot at this shit. So chase your dreams. And I love you. I love you. So let's get into today's video. I have a very special guest. I'm so excited to present to you a Houston native artist, a hidden gem, a wallflower, if you will. I am going to go ahead and get my guest out of here, and I'll see you in a second. Gabriella Lopez. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm so excited to be here today. Yay! I am on my own YouTube show now. I am today's special guest. I am today's Artist Talk guest, and I'm so excited to be talking about myself. Says every artist ever. No, but I know I started this channel initially with showing you guys literally where I eat, sleep, and shit at, and I never kind of gave you a background on who I was. I just said, hey, welcome to my house, and hey, here are some of my friends, and I never said who I was. But this is the time to get nitty gritty on who I am and what I do and a little history on myself, and I'm so excited to share. In the beginning, is how I got here. Okay, so I'm going to go through a chronological timeline of my creative history. But a very crucial point in this timeline is how I got here. So my parents met in 1983 in Second Ward, Houston, Texas, at City Gas Park. So my mother is a native Houstonian, born and raised in Houston, and my father is an immigrant from Matamoros, Mexico. He came to America when he was about 12 years old and later obtained his green card. So he was here, I guess, legally with the green card. I don't know how that went back in the day, but yes, I am a child of an immigrant and a native Houstonian. So yeah, my father dropped out of elementary school or middle school. I don't know which one, but he dropped out of school at a very young age. And this was during the time where education really wasn't, there was no consequences for opting out of education. My mother, her highest level of education was high school. She, I believe, dropped out in 9th grade. She was going to Austin High School and I guess didn't follow through with her education and started working a few years later at the City Gas Rec Center. So if you're not familiar, in Houston, Texas, in a tiny neighborhood called Second Ward, there is a park called City Gas Park, and it's a staple of Second Ward. It's a baseball park. It has a tennis court, a regular court, like a playground and a basketball court, and obviously a rec center. My mom worked at said rec center, and my dad actually lived like 2 blocks away from the rec center. And the summer of 1983 is when these two souls merged and created beautiful baby girls. So I have 3 older sisters, and then it's me. Then I have 2 younger siblings. But we'll get to that a little later. So my parents met. They had beautiful baby girls, and I was born in 1993 in December. And if you guys want to leave a comment and guess my sign, I would be over the moon, because I don't think it's a sign that a lot of you guys would guess is me. Anyways, so yeah, I was born in 1993. So yeah, my parents were Second Ward natives. My grandma lives in Second Ward. My abuelita lived in Second Ward. So I'm very much rooted in Second Ward. However, when the year that I was born, my parents won a lottery for housing, and they ended up picking a house in Northeast Houston. It's Northwest side, and the conjuncting road is Lay Road. So parents grew up in Second Ward, but our house, when I was born, is in Northeast Houston. So it's a dichotomy of places, because Second Ward is a predominantly like Hispanic neighborhood, and the Northeast side is predominantly Black rooted neighborhood. So I grew up in the best of both worlds, in my opinion. Like, I grew up in a very POC dominant areas, and it was just a blend of cultures that I feel like has made me who I am, and very open and cultured and like well versed in diversity. So yeah, that's kind of how it went. And it's crazy because while I was living in the Northeast Houston, I was going to school in Second Ward and East End, which we'll get into that as well. I will be going over some significant events in my life, and also like how they're kind of intertwined with my creative history. So in the summer of 1997, I was about 3 or 4. I suffered a major concussion. I was running around my mom's house with a water gun, and I slipped and I fell and I went unconscious for a few hours. Um, During that time, I remember blacking out and waking up and like throwing up. And then I blacked out again. And then when I woke up, we were driving into the garage of the hospital. Then I blacked out again. And then when I woke up, I was in the hospital bed. So it was a major concussion that I feel like has transformed the way that my mind operates in a lot of ways, other than my creative mind. So I was in the hospital for about 2 or 3 days for observation. I underwent scans of my brain and everything to just kind of make sure that I was okay. I remember I was very terrified to go through the scanning system. I really don't know what it's called right now. And I remember the nurses were like, it's okay. Like, you're going to be okay. Like, if you want, we can scan your teddy bear and your teddy bear, will be okay, So I'm going to go ahead and insert a picture of the x-ray scan of my teddy bear. And I eventually went in there by myself, and obviously everything's okay. I'm okay as far as I know right now. But yeah, I was around 3 or 4 when that happened. And that kind of, from there on, kind of skyrocketed my creativity. As far as I remember, as young as I was, I always had an affinity for drawing. I would always ask my mom for color pencils, pens, markers, notepads. Like, my mom would support me so much in those endeavors, like buying me notepads, diaries, pens, and everything. Like, she just supported it so much, and I'm so grateful that I have a parent that supported that. Like, every kid just wants to further explore and enjoy like their creative hobbies, and I think that it's so important that parents do that for their kids, whether it be music, photography, writing, animation. I think every parent should support that in their child. And then in 2001, Hurricane Allison came and basically destroyed our house in Northeast Houston. We were very close to what was then Lakewood Church in Northeast Houston. So a lot of my artwork from 97 up until 2001 was destroyed. It was a very rough time in our lives. I remember vividly, like, watching the water in our house go higher and higher, and then like my mom was like, hey, we need to get out of the house, like we need to go outside, because she didn't want us to drown. So me and my siblings, and my mom, and that's when my mom had my younger brother. He was, I want to say, a few months old. He was born in April, and this occurred in the summer of 2001. So we all came outside. We all sat on my mom's car and watched water destroy our house, basically. Eventually, a big truck came through the neighborhoods and like rescued us, and we were put into a shelter, which was Lakewood Church at that time. It was very surreal in my eyes, because it was just a bunch of people sheltered in this giant church, and it was a very confusing time for me as well. And yeah, a lot of my earlier artwork was destroyed during that time frame. And I'm seeing here, I was about 7 years old when that happened. So during that time in 2001, I was going to Rusk Elementary. From 1999 to 2006, I attended Rusk Elementary in Second Ward. And again, I'm noting that because while I was going to school in Second Ward, my house was in Northeast Houston. So like I said, I got to experience a dichotomy of areas while growing up. So I just am very, I feel like I'm very open minded. I feel like I'm very like aware of happenings. Like I just feel, I wouldn't say necessarily street smart, but I have a good idea of what goes on in different environments in the area and like different cultures and different just environments in general. Um, so during that time frame in 2004, my father was murdered. I want to say I was 9 or 10, and that was extremely hard for me as a young kid. I did not know how to cope with this. I became severely suicidal. I was very young when this happened. There was just a lot of things going on in my life, and it kind of um, turned on this thing in my brain of like not wanting to live anymore, and like what's the point of living at, and now that I'm in my 30s, I just think about how hard that was as a young kid. I wasn't even a preteen, I was still a young kid, and coping with that was very difficult. Not only was I dealing with suicidal ideation, I was also participating in self harm. And it was just a very conflicting time for me. And there was just a lot going on in my life. And creativity was a very big outlet for me. It just helped with dealing with my emotions. A lot of that art that I created during that time was dark for a young girl. For a young girl, everything that I was creating was very dark. Because I knew the story of how my dad was murdered. I knew it wasn't, it was very abnormal, and it was very grotesque. And hearing that information as a young kid, you don't know how to deal with these things. It's very heavy, and not knowing where to place those emotions, I was taking it out on myself by doing self-harm. And I was also navigating creativity and trying to use that as another outlet versus taking it out on myself. So yeah, during that time frame, a lot of my art was very dark, but I had heavy influential like concepts in my head. It's just like butterflies, stars, moons, sigils. At that time, I didn't know I was like drawing sigils. And I'll get into that maybe in another video, because I feel like that's an important one to talk on. But I would draw faces, fairies, and like emo stuff, and just like, I don't know. Again, it was a very dark time for me. And I was heavily influenced by Lisa Frank and like witchy books, and Shel Silverstein was like a prominent thing, like first and second grade. I was so deep into Shel Silverstein, like his poetry and like the imagery in his books. Like I would recreate it, and I would also do my own poems and like create illustrations off of that. So a lot of my creativity was rooted in a dark place, and I kind of balanced it out with drawing like butterflies and stars and like moons and like kind of girly things. So it's like to me, a nice blend of darkness and like soft girly. And yeah, I was also into comic books. At that time, Hot Topic was like the rage, and like Hot Topic imagery was everything to me, from diaries to posters to band t-shirts, stuff like that. Monsters were a big thing for me too. And yeah, I just feel like a lot of my influences were just a rare dichotomy of everything dark and everything light, which I feel like I represent now in my own little way. But yeah, to that time, this whole entire time frame was just a very conflicting and blurry and just uncomfortable, distorted part of my life. And I really want to go into more depth about like how that time was, but I just wanted to like touch up on that and like show you guys how my art started, what influenced my art, and like how I became the artist that I am today. So, yes, growing up, I dealt with a lot of dark stuff. And again, navigating those feelings, it's so hard because you don't know how to deal with it. And yeah, at this time, my mom had my younger brother, and I was no longer the baby anymore. So it was just very conflicting for me growing up and just trying to understand myself and the world around me. So I grew up in that phase of like emo and like goth. And looking back at it now, I'm like, Mom, this isn't a phase, this is a forever thing. And it kind of was a forever thing. It is a forever thing. I still feel very rooted in emo and goth, even though I don't really identify as that. I still, there's lingering of that, like hints of it still kind of remains in me. And I just think I think it's funny because, like I said, it's like, not a phase, Mom, it's a lifestyle. And it kind of like grew into a lifestyle. Anyways, so yeah, those were things that influenced my art. And in 2006 to 2008, I attended Jackson Middle School, again in East End. It is now called Navarro Middle School. They changed the name and everything. I was there from 7th grade to 8th grade. And yeah, again, this was my emo phase. I was discovering who I was making friends with different groups of people. I think during this time frame, I very much was like a chameleon. I could hang out with the emos. I could hang out with the gangsters. I could hang out with the nerds. I could hang out with the band geeks. Like, it just felt good to like knowing how to navigate all of these cliques and like be a member of these different cliques and groups of people. It was just really fun for me, and like I very much was a social butterfly during this time frame. And yeah, it was just a lot of fun for me. Going from Rusk Elementary to the Jackson Middle School was just like a huge transformation for me, because it was such a small school, and then going to Jackson was like graduating, pre-K and going to 6th grade. That's literally how it was. It was such a good time for me, and I was just like, again, discovering myself during that time frame. So from 2009 to 2012, I attended Eastwood Academy High School. So this high school is very close to Jackson Middle School, and it's also very close to Austin High School. So getting into Eastwood was a new experience to me. It low-key felt like applying to college. Eastwood Academy is a college preparatory school, so yeah, it's not just applying. You literally, so applying to Eastwood Academy, I literally had to I had an application to fill out. I had to submit a written report. I also had to go through the interviewing process. It was such a unique process to go through. And during that process, I submitted a lot of my artwork. A lot of my artwork, again, is like emo, distorted, dark art, very raw, edgy stuff. And yeah, I got into Eastwood Academy, and it was a very small school. I graduated with about 90 people in my class. 90 people in my class graduated. And I think the school overall had maybe 300 to 400 kids. It's a very small school. But I was very lucky enough to go there and just like learn. I usually would never say this, but I am a very, I wouldn't say a nerd, but I'm very academically inclined. I love to learn. I love to soak in information. I love to learn various subjects, not just one. Like, I'm a very curious person, and like I said, I was just very lucky to go to Eastwood Academy because it kind of made me who I am today. And just smart. I feel like I'm a little smart. I'm smart. And so yeah, during my high school times, again, I was emo. I was a scene kid. I was drawing still emo art and everything. Just like, I don't know, just being emo. I just keep saying that because I don't know what another word to describe it for, especially during this time frame. Like I said, like being emo and scene was like all the rage. It was so revolutionary. Everybody was like, had snake bites, like their hair layered and like dyed and everything. So yeah, it was a renaissance for the emos, and I was I guess lucky enough to participate in it, and it was like a lot of fun for me and my friends. And yeah, I got more into dark arts. I got into photography more. I got into making videos with my friends. Like, we would make little skit videos and like upload them to YouTube and just be silly and stuff like that. Like, then I was learning about my sexuality at that time too, and I lost my virginity at 15, which now looking back, I'm like, I should have waited, but I was just very impatient to lose my virginity at that time for whatever crazy reason. I was very rebellious during this time as well. Like, for some reason, I was like consistently in the principal's office for like dumb shit. Whether it be like being a disruption to class, talking too much, just typical rebellious, dumb teenager shit. I was always in the office, and yeah, that was my high school time. I did take a few art classes in high school. So in middle school, there was not a lot of creative art classes, but in high school, I definitely took 2 art classes. And then in my senior year, I took a film class, which basically was us learning about films. And it was amazing because I learned all these awesome films. I also took French class, which I should have taken Spanish, honestly. I should have taken Spanish and like learned my people's tongue, but I didn't. I was trying to be eccentric or whatever. Anyways, I took art classes, I took a film class, I took French. I was also in debate for a few weeks. Not my forte, but it was fun. I went to a few competitions, didn't win any of them. I embarrassed my partner a few times, but debate is not for the weak, y'all. You think it's just talking shit and arguing. It's a lot of research, a lot of paperwork, and a lot of like connecting dots and creating rebuttals for arguments. Oh God, I'm not made for that. I'm glad I didn't pursue that. I'm glad I'm not a lawyer. It's crazy stuff. But yeah, I was developing my skill set into photography. I was taking a lot of self-portraits. I was learning about self-portraits. I was learning more of the anatomy of people. I will show examples of how like my art started to evolve. I was like learning more anatomy, how to portion faces, how to shape noses, how to draw the eye more anatomically correct. Even though, if you see my art today, none of it is proportionate and none of it is anatomically correct. So yeah, that was my high school time. Just getting comfortable in my skin, still being rebellious, still being emo, still just being my little self. I graduated high school and I went straight to college. I attended Houston Community College, and I ended up getting my associate's degree. Dot, 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 dot. It took me at least 6 or 7 years to complete a 2-year degree.
Oh my God, bro. Oh, hell no, man.
And let me tell you why. So my first year I went to school for a full semester taking full-time classes. I didn't have a job. The next year I got a job and I was taking like part-time classes. Again, I was all this time I did not have a car until about 2014. And yeah, so I would take a year off, then I would go back to school, take a few classes, had a job on the side, taking the bus, saved enough money to put a down payment on a car in 2014. Then I went back to school. It was just like going to school, taking time off, going to school, taking time off, going to school, taking time off, and like doing all that, navigating going to school and working. And also not having a car. It was just a very difficult time, and I still was headstrong about graduating with my associate's degree. At that time, and I think I still am, I'm the only person in my family who finished their associate's degree. And yeah, I'm so happy about that. But I still would like to get my bachelor's degree in fine art, but that's for another video. Let me just say this. I don't like financial debt, and I don't like knowing that I owe people money. So I'm just like about going to school because I know it's going to cost a lot of money to get my bachelor's degree, but I'm a huge advocate about academia. I guess it's because my parents didn't finish school. It just pushes me to like, hey, your parents didn't do it. You're in a position to do it, then do it. I don't have kids. I'm not married. I don't have huge responsibilities. So I think eventually I am going to go back to get my bachelor's degree. But yeah, during college, like I said, it took me like 6 or 7 years just to get my fucking associate's degree. During this time of, navigating adulthood, learning how to budget, dealing with work, dealing with school, dealing with like financial responsibilities, I became a heavy drinker. So when I turned 18, for some reason, I was still able to buy liquor from the liquor store. So yeah, I got heavily into drinking, which, now that I'm in my 30s, looking back, I was like, girl, what were you doing? Like, anyways, I was drawing more during my time at Houston Community College. I took a photography class. I was taking every art class that I could take. Every art class, drawing, painting, collaging, like I said, photography. I was taking so many art classes. At a certain point, my counselor was like, hey, like you need to take some actual like academic classes like biology, maybe math, and yeah, so I had to take those classes, but every chance that I got, I was taking an art class, and it kind of skyrocketed to what I started to do eventually, like art that I wasn't just drawing. I was doing painting, which I never really explored until college, and it just kind of like opened a whole new avenue for me, and I was just engulfed in it, and it was just a lot of fun for me. And yeah, during, I want to say 2013, I was 19 years old. I ended up getting pregnant, and I got a smortion because I could see into the future. Who I was with at that time was not a responsible or reliable person, and neither was I. I was 19. Come on, let's be so real. I didn't have a car. I was still in college, so I made the best decision for myself and for another life to not put them through a struggle that I knew was going to be a forever thing. And I do not regret that decision at all. It's made me into a better person, a more responsible, a more considerate person. of my responsibilities and my priorities and things I gotta do and take care of. So after that smushmortion, I ended up drinking heavily. No one talks about how when you go through that process, you still hurt from it. It is not an easy process. It doesn't happen and you move on from life. It's painful physically, and it's painful emotionally, and it's painful psychologically. So it's not an easy process. It's not something that a woman wants to go through every year. So that really it really fucked me up in my head. So yeah, I was heavily drinking again. And eventually, I want to say when I was like 22, 23, I kind of calmed down on drinking. My best friend at that time would tell me like certain things, and it just kind of like popped in my head like, damn, like, what am I doing? Like, I'm getting fucked up. I'm throwing up everywhere. I wake up feeling terrible. I make terrible mistakes under the influence. I'm hooking up with people that I don't like. Like, it was a very blurry time for me, but I'm glad that I snapped. I'm glad that I experienced it and am alive to tell you about it. And two, I'm glad that I experienced it and I have no desire to go back into that I guess substance heavily like that. So yes, from 2013 to 2019, I was heavily into painting, drawing, and photography. I ended up moving out of my mom's house when I was 22 years old, and I had roommates, which was a whole new experience for me because I hadn't lived on my own before, and I hadn't had roommates like that before. So it was a new experience for me, and I'm 22, I'm living on my own, I'm exploring so many different creative avenues, and I'm refining what I like and what I don't like. I'm just discovering myself as an artist. And to kind of go back into time, I always knew I wanted to be an artist. I always knew that I would be a creative person from a very young age. I just wanted to create. And as you get older, and if you ever wonder, like, damn, what should I do with my life? What career is for me? I would definitely recommend you going back to when you were a young child and seeing what you were into at that time. I feel like you learn so much from yourself as a very young adult or young child rather, and it kind of gives you hints as to what you should like pursue in your career. And yeah, I just always had this like innate feeling that I would be an artist. Like I've always been like headstrong about it. But when you grow up in a family that lacked education, that lacked career direction, like it's kind of hard navigating being an artist. To kind of go back, so my first job was working at Denny's when I was 19 years old. And then later on that year, I ended up working at a call center as a virtual receptionist, aka a customer service representative. I was just answering calls for different companies. I was actually working remote, which was also very new. Like this was before COVID. And I was working from home, taking calls, which I was like so lucky and privileged to do that. However, I was working second shift, meaning I was there from 3 p.m. to like 11 o'clock at night. So that's like most of my day. And then when I would get off work, I would paint. I would draw until like 5, 6 in the morning. Like I was that artist. And And I thrived in that. I thrived in like being a late night artist, creating until, you know, the morning, and just like just creating. It was such a cool time for me, and I was just working from home. And I didn't have a car yet at that time, living with my mom. And then I got my car, and I saved up more money to move out. And yeah, I ended up quitting that job. Then I ended up working at a property management company. I was a receptionist for a minute, and then I got promoted into being a accounting assistant. Don't ask me about math. I don't know how I got that. Anyways, I got promoted to accounting assistant. I was miserable there. When I was a receptionist, I would get yelled at because people's rent was due and people were getting late fees, and they would, you know, they would just come and be like, "Why are you charging me money? I paid this." And I just, there's only so much you can handle when you're getting yelled at for shit that you didn't do. So yeah, I was a receptionist, promoted to accounting assistant, which wasn't so bad, but I was still miserable there. It was not fun. I want to say I hated that job. But I did get some good experience, so I'll give it that. I ended up getting let go. Then I ended up finding another job at a art museum. Was there for 6.5 years. It was my dream job to work at there. But at some point it became not fun when you're given responsibilities and they're not paying you, and you're bringing it to their attention, and they're kind of overlooking your position and kind of downplaying your role and everything like that. So I think I'll make a video on that, but I want to make sure that I'm saying things that don't get me in trouble about that. But yeah, I ended up working at a museum for 6.5 years, and then I quit. And here I am today, making YouTube videos, showing you my dirty little secrets. But yeah, I've had a really good run in the creative world. Time frame, I got into different creative modes. I was just exploring everything. So I also, during 2017 to 2019. This is Gabby post recording. I left out two major events during my creative tenure. I was attending festivals and pop-up shops in the years of 2015, 2016 to about 2018. I would attend pop-up shows, display my art, sell my art, engage with the community. It was a huge pivotal moment in my art career that I completely left out because, you know, scatterbrain over here. I was into painting, like acrylic abstract paintings, and also refining my drawing, refining my photography, learning different lighting techniques. It was just so much fun for me. And I also somehow ended up doing a little bit of street art. I I started doing wheat paste posters, and I also started spray painting. Which, let me just say, I was just exploring different creative avenues, and just spending time with creatures of the night, and just exploring the neighborhood at night, and in the daytime too. And just, I mean, it was mainly at night. I'm not gonna, let's be real here, you can only do stuff like that at night when not a lot of people are around. So yes, I would visit abandoned buildings with my friends. I would have like a bag of spray paint, and just like wherever there was open space, I would show my name there. I was not the best. I actually would be called a toy in the graffiti writing community because my work was subpar. But I had fun doing it. And doing wheat paste was also one of my favorite things to do, even though, you know, it's not, it's temporary. Let me just say that once it rains, once somebody tears it down, you're probably never going to see it. But it's funny because when I was doing wheat paste, like this page on Instagram, like spotted one of my posters, and it was like on the internet, and I just felt so cool because, like, I don't know, it just feels cool to get recognition in that way, because that art is very temporary. Like, that art format is very temporary. It does not stay there forever, you know? And yeah, it was just cool new creative avenues. And I really, really enjoyed exploring abandoned buildings. And not only was I partaking in like that art form, but I was also taking photos of these areas and these urban landscapes. And it was just so thrilling to me. And till this day, I have just like this strong affinity for graffiti, just the lettering, the colors, the places that it's at, train tracks, walls, the sides of buildings, you know. It just really is alluring to me, and I love taking photos of it. And yeah, so that was my little era of like doing street art. And later on, I ended up moving out in 2020 by myself, and I had more space for myself to like create. So COVID happened. My job was, you know, allowing me to work from home. And then on the side, I created Left Hand Crafts, which is my art name, I guess. I created Left Hand Crafts. I also created a website for it on Big Cartel. I started expanding on selling prints of my art, selling prints of my collages, selling stickers, and just creating like a very small business out of it. I made some sales, which I'm so grateful for. It just made me feel so like, you can do this, bitch. Like, you can sell your art. And that lasted, I want to say, a good year or two. I think in 2022, I kind of definitely slowed down on it because I was just, and I hate to say this, so engulfed in my work, working at the museum, and very stressed to a degree that when I would come home, I never really had that energy to create. So I kind of stopped creating and kind of went to a lull. 2020s, like 2020, 21, a little bit of 22, I kind of started slowing down on the creativity. Also, in the year 2021, my self-portrait was featured in an art museum. And then in 2025, another self-portrait was also featured in an art museum. And I want to say in 2022 or 2021, my art was published in a art catalog. I'm so sorry I left these really big, crucial points in my life, but I will definitely throw that in here so you guys can kind of get an idea of my accomplishments, because I sometimes downplay my accomplishments, and they're so huge and they're so important. And I really need to remind myself of my evolution and of my accomplishments, man. I've accomplished some things. And I turned 30 in 2023, and I kind of just been in a creative rut. And I don't like to give, you know, being stressed out at my job too much credit. A lot of it is me too, you know what I mean? Like, I just didn't have a creative drive in me for whatever reason. I guess I was just burnt out and kind of like in a freeze when it came to like creativity. And I want to say that it applies to now, but not really, because I'm creating YouTube videos now, and I feel like that's also a creative outlet in itself. So I don't want to say I've lost my creativity. I just have placed it in a different avenue of creativity. And I definitely want to get back into drawing and like painting and collaging, and I know I will. But I'm very set on being an artist. Like, I have it in my mind, I have it in my heart, and I have it in my soul to be an artist. And I feel like if there's a will, there's a way for me to do this full time and to be successful and to be respected and to be like influential and inspirational and to be generous in my artistry. Like, when I make it big, I'm going to help other people in their careers and help other people, you know, with whatever resources I'm able to provide. Like, I just know it in my heart, and just even doing this is just like so fun for me because I didn't know anything about editing. I didn't know anything about like creating scripts, or like, you know, knowing how to format videos and not over yap and like under yap. You know, I'm trying to like navigate this editing and like stuff like that. So it's also, everything that I do is it's creative in its own way, and I just love creating. I love learning. I love being myself, learning to refine who I am, and also in the process inspiring other people to do their own thing. You know, I don't know. I don't know. I wanted to like give like more information on like what I'm doing now, but I'm just like doing YouTube. Like, I'm doing videos now. I'm like talking to myself and just telling my story. And I think that's what it is. I think I'm in the period of my creativity in storytelling and sharing my story. And that in itself is a part of creating, is sharing stories. And it's just dawning on me now how impactful that is too. Not just having, you know, physical creativity, but also storytelling and like influencing and inspiring other people to get in their own creative elements as well. But yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed like this little history on my art. And I did a lot of research on myself. I did a lot of compiling my archives, a lot of compiling photos of myself, and in order to like provide you with a visual, because I know this isn't all going to be yap. Definitely wanted to entertain you guys and like provide visual examples of my art. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this story. I'm definitely going to make more videos about my life. I feel like I've lived an interesting life, especially at a young age. And now that I'm in my 30s, I'm like healing from everything from my childhood and like from my teenage time. And yeah, I hope this video influences you to pursue your dreams, to continue with them. And just to remind you, it's okay to take a little break from it. It's okay to put the pen down. It's okay to put the camera away. It's okay to step away from the paintbrushes for a little bit, because part of creativity is living your life, collecting experiences, collecting feelings, collecting ideas, and then putting them into fruition, whether that be a drawing, a video, a song. A big part of being a creative person is living your life. And like I said, it's okay to put your pen down, to put your paintbrush down, to put the camera down, to live life and to just become a better artist. You know, people don't understand a part of being an artist is just our perspective on life. How I view life has a huge influence on how I create my art, or like things that have happened in my lifetime have a huge influence on what I create in my art. Like, I've been through a very traumatic childhood. A lot of that art is very dark. It's very distorted. It's very raw. It's very unfinished. It's very flawed in a way. But that's kind of how life was. Like, that's how I perceived life for a minute, you know? But now I have like a more refined outlook on life. Like I said, I was very suicidal as a adolescent, and I didn't want to be alive for a very long time. But as I got older, I have this really newfound appreciation for life. Like, I love life. I love living every day. Like, I thank God for getting me up in the morning. I thank God for like showing me a new beautiful day. Like, I know I sound like low-key preachy, but I am a big believer of God. I'm not like, it's not, this not, my faith is not based in religion. It's just based in God, and God being that life force in all of us, you know? And yeah, I'm just happy that I'm no longer in a dark place in my life. I'm happy that I'm no longer like miserable waking up. I'm just happy to be alive and to live and to just be able to see the sun, be able to see the clouds, be able to see trees, and like be able to love and be able to feel, man. Like, being an artist, we feel a lot, man. We feel so much. There's so many feelings that run through me daily. It's hard to explore them all and experience them all, but I'm able to do that when I'm like telling a story, drawing a picture, and like, you know, just using my creative outlets to help process and navigate my feelings, and express my feelings, you know, because there's a lot of feelings going on and I don't want it stuck in my body. Being stuck in your body, I feel like it's like an internal constipation. You need to let it out, or you'll just be stuck. It'll just be stuck in you, and it'll weigh down on you, and it'll be heavy on you. So the more that you express, the more you let go of shame and self-doubt and like guilt and everything, the lighter you will feel. And art has definitely helped me out in those ways, man. Like, art has literally saved my life. Art has literally made me want to live life more. And yeah, and that's what makes me feel so like strong about being an artist. Like, it's helped me out in so many fucking ways. Like, it's like, why would God put the idea of me being an artist and me being so creative if that wasn't my like calling? So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed hearing my history, seeing my history, and learning a little bit about the current me. I'm still I'm like early 30s, so I can't give you like a whole rundown on how it's been in my 30s. I just turned 32, and I gotta say, I love being in my 30s. It's a very refined 20s. I think your 20s is just navigating your responsibilities. Your 20s is healing from shit in your childhood. Your 20s is for making mistakes. And your 30s is just a refined version of that. Of course, you're going to make mistakes. Of course, you know, shit's going to happen. It's not going to be all happy-go-lucky. But you got experience when you're in your 30s. You got a better hold on life. You got a better outlook on life. So I'll leave you with that. And I really, really hope that you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, guys. Like, once I hit that 1K subscriber limit, I will be able to monetize on my YouTube channel. And your girl really needs to try to make a coin in every creative avenue of her life, not just making prints, not just selling paintings, not just selling my photography, but I also would like to make money off of making these videos and sharing like big parts of my life with you guys. Like, yeah, I hope you guys enjoy, and I will see you guys in the next video.